Hey guys, Big Al here. So today we're going to be doing another conspiracy theory. If you haven't seen my past ones, go check them out. I'll put like links below and whatever. I don't know how to do anything, but like I'll figure it out. So today we're going to be talking about the 37th parallel, which like is a line. Hold on, let me check. I love how prepared I am for this. This is great, awesome. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the 37th parallel, which is like a line of latitude that goes across, obviously, like the whole Earth, but like specifically in the U.S., it goes from the Santa Cruz, California to the Chesapeake Bay, so it's like boom, and it like it defines the borders for Utah, Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, Kansas, and Oklahoma. So it's known as America's Paranormal Highway or like UFO Highway. And the 37th is like the main line of it, and then like it kind of stretches to like the 36th and 38th, like above and below. But like if you could picture a road and how you have like the two white lines, those would be the 36 and 38, and then like the dotted line in the middle would be the 37. It got this name because of the amount of like cattle mutations and other weird occurrences that happen on this line, so much so that someone started to put them all together, realized that it was all occurring on this line, and he wrote a book about it. Anyways, the cattle mutations. There were 10,000 cattle that had been found lying on their left side, missing organs, cuts were all surgical and circular, their bodies were drained of blood. Like thousands. So much so, in 1975, they had an FBI investigation that involved over 100 agents, and it lasted for 10 years, and they found nothing to give them a lead of what was happening, and to this day, there's no conclusion on that case. And it's not in just one area, but across the U.S. on this line. It happens so frequently that it's underreported. Someone named Chuck Zukowski, he was the one who started mapping all of this. He went on like a road trip, I guess, and kind of devoted his life to this, and he realized that like not only did the cattle mutations happen on this line, but so did the majority of UFO sightings, but also almost all of America's underground military bases fall on the 37th. Last but not least, it is home to many Native American sacred sites that have ancient stories about the star people. They all have seen like luminous lights in the sky, and they reported them as the light people, but like the way they describe it is very similar to how we describe UFOs and aliens. Okay, the Dulce base. I want to talk about first because this one is like the most like out there of all of them. And when I read this, I was like, okay, like what? So, Dulce was a secret subterranean military base that was on the New Mexico-Colorado border. So this man, Schneider, he had gotten the clearance to construct tunnels in this underground base and make the base 7 levels. So one day, like they had technical difficulties building one of the tunnels, and so they had to go in like a different direction. So they encountered gray aliens. And so there was a battle, and only 3 of the 60 men lived, and Schneider was injured. He reported that like on their chests they had lasers that shot out of their chests, and like so his like fingers are burnt off. Basically, like, Schneider spent the rest of his life giving speeches about this because he like strongly believes that that's what happened at Dulce. But like I mean, like, I'm saying this and I think it's literally ridiculous. I'm just sharing it because it has to do with the line. So Schneider spent the latter part of his life giving speeches about the alleged experience at the Dulce base, and he often said that he was being watched by the government. Like, had made like a claim and like an announcement at like one of the conventions he was talking at, and he said, look, if I'm ever found to commit suicide, know that it was not me. I would not commit suicide. That if I end up like found dead, then it was a murder, and the government like told me off to like keep quiet. And a couple years or like months after he had said this, he was found dead with a cord of a catheter wrapped around his neck and was labeled as a suicide. I literally just got chills. The thing that freaks me out about this is like in my last video, I was talking about someone named Frank Olson who was said to have jumped out of a 13-story building, and it was as a suicide, and then when his family had exhumed his body and done a second autopsy years later, they found out, no, like this was a homicide. So like I've seen a pattern with that, which is why it's like kind of creepy, because I can see that part totally being accurate. So like a more like reasonable case is Roswell. This also is in New Mexico. So Dulce, I don't know if I mentioned that. Dulce is in New Mexico. Roswell is also in New Mexico. New Mexico's a weird place, man. This case happened in 1947. It was America's first nuclear base, and they had tracked a flying object in the sky. They didn't really know what it was, and it was in a storm, and lightning hit it, and it fell. And it crashed onto a farmer's land, and like the farmer went out and found it, and like he was like, whoa, like this looks weird, like I don't know what this is, and like the metal was something he had never seen before, and the shape was something that no one had ever seen before. The officers came to the scene, like the FBI came to like investigate this, right? And they literally made a claim that it was a UFO at first, and then they retracted that claim hours later, and they went out to this farmer's land and they sweep the land like inch to inch looking for debris and collecting it all, and they told the farmer, hey, never speak of this, it never happened. So they go and they stage a picture with a weather balloon because they were like, yeah, it wasn't a UFO, it was a weather balloon, like sorry, like Area 51 was like testing weather balloons at the time, and must have like the storm must have blown it down to New Mexico. And every single person in the picture have since come out and said, no, that was staged. That was not the real debris. But the reason why I'm telling you this is because they brought all the material to Area 51, which is why kind of Area 51 got its whole like aliens live there thing. Everyone was like, oh my god, the government knows about aliens, like the government's hiding aliens, like blah blah blah. And like that's how Area 51 kind of started being like this weird place. And now 9 months after the whole Roswell case, there was a very similar crash in Aztec, New Mexico, which again, New Mexico has something going on. So there was a crash. A short synopsis of the event is that a saucer about 100 feet in diameter was discovered by oil workers sent to Hart Canyon to extinguish a bushfire that was basically threatening the oil wells in the area nearby. And while they were there, they saw a strange craft resting on a mesa. The oil workers inspected the craft. It appeared to be made of light but extremely strong metal. It had no seams or fastens of any kind, and it had a small broken porthole, and the workers could see a number of small occupants inside that had been burned and charred, but they were like too small to be like adult humans, so it would either be like little kids built this spaceship thing and were flying around, or aliens. The original officers who were sent to the scene were talked to by military personnel, and they were like, hey, never talk about what you saw there. This is a matter of national security. The Aztec case is the one that is most believable. People believe there is something bigger going on. There were a lot of people who saw the ship, and it was like intact, like mostly, and it was something that no one had ever seen before. And there were like burnt bodies inside that like the government just literally came, collected, and like hid, and then never talked about again. Like they were like, oh yeah, we found a weather balloon. Like they never came out with a claim to justify what they had found. It was just not ever talked about again. So another weird fact about the parallel is that Los Alamos, which is also in New Mexico, had one of the 3 nuclear weapons at the time. And people think that that's why like New Mexico was such a targeted area, because like they also had the nuclear base down in Roswell, and like out of all the places that aliens would go, like people claim that like it would make the most sense for them to target like nuclear places, because then they would have weapons to like fight us, which like I guess makes sense. But one weird thing that I discovered was that when you connect Los Alamos, Dulce, and Aztec, New Mexico, it creates a triangle. Illuminati? I think so. But yeah, so basically like a lot of weird things happen on 37 parallel. The fact that Area 51 is on is a whole nother video. And the fact that like a lot of underground government bases are along the parallel. People think that there's like an underground tunnel that connect all of them, so like the government can just like drive from one to the other and not be on like normal highways and stuff. The cattle mutations are really just like probably the least explainable of all of them. There's just like nothing. Like it stumped the FBI. They were like, we tried and we literally have no idea. So I hope that you enjoyed these weird alien stories. I hope they weren't too weird for you. But that's all. So thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe this video, and comment below if you have any other suggestions on more conspiracies that you want to hear. Roar, alligators, roar.